Feel the beat, it's in your soul. Dance and Meisha make you whole. Stories rise, the healing's near. Share your light, there's no fear. Healing huddles, we all unite. There's a Meisha, shine you bright. Tell your story, let it flow. Together stronger, we will grow.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another Healing Huddles. I am Gerald, and I have also with me Mrs. Meisha Dalton. And we're so excited to be back.
Hello.
I haven't been in Ghana for the past 5 weeks. And just so excited to get back. It was such a spiritual experience, although I went for work, but it was a great experience, and I'm sure I'll share some of my experiences later on another episode. But tonight we are talking about childhood trauma and what were some of the causes of your childhood trauma. And if you were born and raised in church like I was, could church be part of that trauma? Church hurt, that is. But before we dig into that, for those of you who might have just come across our videos and this is the first time you're watching, we are a part of the Healing Home movement. And what our mission and our goal is to help raise the vibration on this planet. And in order to do that, we know that you have to heal home. And home to us is our bodies. It's us, ourselves. And it's also our relationships with our family. And home is also the earth. But before we can heal our relationships and before we can heal our earth, it starts with us first. And so that is our mission. Just giving people the courage and the inspiration and the motivation to tap into yourself, get to know yourself, get to walk in love and transparency. And I'm sure if everybody works on that alone, we would have such a beautiful world out here. Don't you think, Meisha?
Absolutely. Healing it's an inside job. It is 100% an inside job.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, let's get started because
Yes.
I must say, again, I was born and raised in church. Like I went to church like 3 times a week. I would say there was Bible study, there was Sunday school, right?
Choir rehearsal.
Choir rehearsal, church, vacation Bible school during the summers. And, of course, we are spiritual beings, like living here on this earth, living out a human experience, right? So I do believe that there is a higher power. I believe there is definitely a higher source, right? And so this is kind of like a heavy topic, right? I know even for you, Meisha, because you're like, I don't even know if I want to talk about this. But I would say I was probably around 14. Yeah, I would say 13, 14-ish. When my eyes were like open up to some truth, some part of the truth in the Bible. I went to New York and there were these brothers out on the street just preaching. And they handed me this flyer, this piece of paper. And it started just showing that Jesus was actually not the white Jesus that I thought he was, growing up. You see the white Jesus in church and all of that stuff. But it even broke down the Bible verse that describes Jesus. And I'm like, Okay, I took the paper, I glanced at it, but when I got home, I started like looking up all the Bible verses that they were referencing and different things that they were bringing out. And I think at that point, I was still young, still growing, right? I kind of
Mhm.
like disassociated from church a little bit. Um, Not necessarily my belief in God, but just like, wait a minute, like I have been lied to. I have been
Yeah.
lied. And you know what? I am. Let me pull up the verse so that everybody can see that in your King James version, which a lot of people use, which there's actually Bibles before that, right?
Lots of them.
And lots of them. And to me, I feel like if it was my choice and if I had knew the knowledge, I would have been reading the Bible that was as close to when Christ walked this earth as possible. Because as time goes on, things get mistranslated and because you're not living in those times. So
Hmm.
sometimes what was really intended could be misconstrued. Just to make a point of this too, the NIV, when you look at what the NIV says of this Bible verse that I'm gonna pull up, it reads totally different. But let me pull up this Bible verse that I read when I was about 14, when someone enlightened me. So in Revelations 1:13 through 16, his head and his hairs were white like wool, as white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burnt in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters. Okay, Meisha, I don't know about you, but what does something burnt in the furnace look like?
It's pretty dark. It's
Now
pretty dark.
you know how people say, well, I'm not black. My skin isn't black, it's brown. Uh that's black. That's that purple black. That's that real, real, real black color. I mean, feet as if it was like brass, as if it was burnt in a furnace. That's
Mhm.
black. That's how dark Jesus was. And I was just shocked. I was shocked. And I kind of, like I said, disassociated and went through my experiences growing up. And then fast forward, I really craved being in fellowship. I crave going to church and just being in that, that's like a high vibration environment, right? So I kind of crave that and I kind of made my way back to the church. But then after a while, all of this remembrance started coming back to me. And then I started getting flooded with all these questions down to what really is fornication? Like, yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about all of this stuff because I learned that what fornication is isn't even what the church is saying that it is. So it's just a lot of eye-opening um, information
Mhm.
that almost had me feeling like just just bamboozled. Because as I got older, like I said, that all of that remember started coming back to me where I just started digging deep and um,
Mhm.
just trying to, I'm a truth seeker. I'm a truth seeker. And the Bible says to worship God in spirit and in truth, right? We should
Right.
always be in constant communication with our creator. Always. And we should be always questioning. We should be always searching to find the truth so that we could develop a deeper relationship with him.
Mhm.
You talk to some people and they just can't take it in. And I believe in my spirit that the creator told me to leave. And it was 2009. I had just had my last daughter. And I believe because I had so many questions and because I knew I could not ask those questions and get an
Yeah.
answer. Because you know, when you go to Bible study, you just listen to what the pastor tells you, and
That's it. You can't question anything.
you can't question anything.
Hmm.
But at the time, the church that I was at, when I decided, you know what, I really believe, I feel like the creator is telling me to take this journey with him, to go on a sabbatical and take
Hmm.
the spiritual journey. And so I told them I'm leaving. I have to leave
Yeah.
because there's so many questions that I just have to dive deep for myself and get to know for myself and find out these answers. And the pastor said, okay, well, I totally understand, but you got to be careful of those spirits that's out there that you might come up against. I said, oh, trust me. I do have a spirit of discernment. I've been born and raised in church. Like, I know what the spirit of
Hmm.
God looks like, feels like, tastes like, smells like. I know it. So, but I said, if I come across any questions, how about I reach out to you? So he said, okay, fine. And so I went on a journey and I dove in deep into just research to the point where, like when you do so much research, you start going down a whole rabbit hole, right? And it just
Yeah.
becomes overwhelming. It started to
A
consume me.
lot.
It's a lot. One of the
Hmm.
things that I came across though was um, the lost books of the Bible. And I said, wow, I wonder why these books are not in the Bible. And so I started to Google that. Why aren't the lost books in the Bible? And the deeper I got, I found that they are referenced in the Bible.
Hmm. Yeah. All
So then
throughout.
I started like Googling, okay, where are these lost books referenced in the Bible? And I must have found about, I don't know, 3, 4 pages worth of references. And so I
Yeah.
was just like, hmm, let me ask the pastor about this. Because I did tell him if I came across stuff, I would. So I brought it to his attention and he said, oh, really? He said, well, if it's not a part of the canon, then it's not even supposed to be in the Bible. And I'm like, well, hold up now. Because to me, they're in the Bible. Because if the Bible is referencing these books, they're in the Bible. Or they should be in the Bible, or they are a part of the Bible because they're being referenced. And so
Hmm.
he's like, really? They are? I said, yeah. I said, I'll send them to you. So I sent them. I didn't hear back from him, but I
Wow. At all?
did
Never?
at all, at all. But like
Oh,
a month later, they were having some type of gala or semi-formal thing uptown. And I went, to support, although I had left. I went and he saw me and he said, oh, Des, I want to let you know, I did get your email. I saw all of the references. He said, and it was just so much. I
yeah.
didn't know, he's like,
Hmm.
I haven't even had time to like dissect it all. He said, but I thought of something. I'm like, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people like you that like to research and just have all types of questions and stuff like that. I was thinking maybe we can create a research group at the church for people like you that just want to dive deeper and have questions. I said, oh, that
Hmm.
would be awesome. And I said, let me know when you put that group together. Another several weeks went by. I stopped by. He said, oh, you know what? We put the group together and it was a great meeting. And I said, oh, I thought you were going to let me know. He said, well, yeah, you can join us on the next meeting. We have some land at the church and we're going to be talking about how to incorporate the land. And once he started saying all this stuff, it's just like all I was hearing was like, wow, 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 wow. Because I'm like, what does this have to do with our conversation with the lost books of the Bible and creating a research group? You're talking about
Yeah.
doing church to figure out how to turn land at the church into a corporation. I was just like, what is going? At that part, I felt like I was in the
Yeah.
twilight zone, and that's when I really, really just walked away. I just walked away, and I just didn't look back. That is some of my, and that's
Yeah.
a lot, but there's more. There's more to scratch the surface
Yeah.
of things that I learned. But what about you, Meisha? I'm glad I got a chance to get that out because it's been a long time coming. And when I say
Yeah.
from 2009 to up about, I don't know, 2018, 2019, I
Mhm.
felt so alone. Like the walk was so lonely because
Mhm.
of course, I could say things to my family and share things. And some of my family was like, yeah, that is right. So it's not like I was shunned from my family, but to speak to the average regular person, it's not something they could
Yeah, they
comprehend.
won't get it.
They don't get it.
Yeah.
And I know you had some of
Mhm.
your own experiences with that, right?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I all my life I've always questioned everything, even as a young person. So I wasn't raised in church at all. My family, they weren't churchgoers or anything. I got introduced to churches through a community activity bus when I was little, and we used to sing the little Bible songs, and I would go. And then as I got older, I would go in and out of church with friends, but I'm a studier. I've always, ever since I was a child, I always study deeply. I read, I study. I want to dissect words, etymology. I've always studied just the history of everything. It's just always been fascinating to me, no matter what the subject matter is. So I used to literally take my Bible. I would read it at work, on my lunch break, in the car. I mean, I would read for hours and hours a day. And I started realizing, like, wait a minute, some of this doesn't make sense. And I had a lot of questions, like you said, but if you ask anybody, it's just like, oh, don't question God or don't question this. And I'm just like, but why? If it says, you shall know the truth and the truth shall set you free, why don't you not want to know the truth? So I just started studying, like I literally, and at the time, the questions that I had, a lot of the things that didn't make sense to me. And I'm just like, well, why? And one day I just said, and mind you, I would study. I was in school, like, to go into ministry. I've been for 20
Mm,
years. I was,
wow.
so, but I just never, it's just, things just did not. And so one day I was just like, you know what, God, just show me the truth. Whatever the truth is, just show me. And I promise you, from that moment, my eyes started opening to things that I never knew. Like, all the questions I had to go outside of the Bible to understand. I had to study the geography during that time. I studied language. I studied, read Hebrew Bibles,
Mm,
Jewish Bibles. I read the Ethiopian Bible, which, by the way, is the oldest. I've read the Geneva Bible. I learned about King James and who he really is. I learned that there were over 30,000 changes made to the Bible from the time the original was made. And there are many, 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 many translations. And so a lot of it was translated from in Greek to the Latin to the England. It's got German words. The word God is a German word, which means to invoke. So I studied a lot of that. And then I started studying, like, ancient texts. Someone said to me, they said, Meisha, pick a point and go back as far as you can. So I'm like, well, wait a minute. History did not start 6,000 years ago. Like, humans did not start 6,000 years ago. I mean, we know through science that the oldest modern human fossils are found in South Africa, dating back to about almost 300,000 years ago. So
mm,
that's what they call the mitochondrial Eve gene.
mhm,
So I know that. So I'm like, okay, so what was going on before this? And I learned about all the invasions and all the different cultures, the Sumerians, the ancient Egyptians, which is called Kemet at the time, the Nubians, the uh, Canaanite, all of it. I spent years studying a lot of this that's like thousands of years older than the biblical text. So the more I studied, and like you said, you're going down this rabbit hole and rabbit hole. And then one day when I'm just like, God, this is so much information. And I learned things that they never talk about in church, that things that people don't know. I didn't know. And
Mhm.
I started to get depressed. I literally went through a depression, not because of the information, but I literally felt a heartbreak. It is a
Mhm.
feeling, the feeling that I started to feel was like a feeling of growing up with your parents all your life. And then one day realizing that your mother and father are not your real parents. That's how it
Right.
felt.
Yeah.
And it was hard because I was so heavy into my, I mean, I was deep in it. And it was
Mhm.
just like, oh my gosh. And I couldn't talk to anybody about it. I did have a couple of people that questioned me about it, but at the time I wasn't very outspoken. And I lost a friend because of that, because she judged me
Mm.
um, because of it. So that taught me a long time ago, don't ever talk about it. Don't share what I know. Don't talk about what I've studied, because it's, people would judge what they don't understand, and
Right.
they will speak on something that they've never studied. And it's just, it was so lonely. Hmm.
But real quick, the Bible says to study to
Hmm.
show thyself approved. And what you're doing or what you did is
Yeah.
not
And I
wrong.
studied.
You're studying. You did better than me. Cause
I
I was just
studied.
like, this is too
Yeah, I
much. I got
studied.
kids I gotta take care
Yeah, it was a lot. I mean, there were times where I had to stop because I would literally get headaches because the information was so much. Like it's a lot. It's so much.
Right.
Like it will blow people's minds. And
It,
I'm
it,
just like, gosh,
it will
and so
almost
that's
turn
when
you
then I
crazy.
started. It does. And
Not
so then I'm just like, and the more I ask for knowledge, the more I learn. And the more I learn, it's just that rabbit hole. It goes deeper and deeper. And so then I'm just like, okay, once went through all the range of emotions, I'm like, I need to find my tribe. I need to find some people. Am I the only person in the world? And that's when, I mean, I'm telling you, even going through that, I still was praying like, okay, show me. And I started having people that I would connect with that had been journey a lot longer than I have. And I started to learn more and more and more, and connecting with people all over who are, and this is something that a lot of people don't understand. Whenever you go on that spiritual path, or that become a truth seeker, if you will, these are not people who, because one of the things that I would hear or see people say is, oh, they don't know the Lord, or they don't know the Holy Spirit. The people that are on this path are people who were pastors, deacons, bishops, elders, people who had churches, people who were raised in church. I mean, these are not just people who just blindly saying, oh, this is not right. These are people who studied, and I mean, it was their entire life. And
right.
so, I learned that, but now I'm in a comfortable space. And so I learned that we spend so much time looking out. We were taught to look outside of ourselves to find ourselves, or to connect with source or creation or creator, that we're always looking outside of ourselves when everything that we need is within. And so now it's just like, tap in, like source, what people need, it's there, and I feel more connected to our creator than I ever have in my entire
Me
life
too.
now, because
Me
now I'm
too.
not following a program, or
Right.
someone's just giving me and saying this is what it is and believe it. I studied for myself, and and it's not even the big things. It's not being religious. It's going outside sometimes, like literally outside in nature, just standing there. I feel close to creation, because the breath of life forces in everything, and when you learn to connect with our creator on that level, that you elevate, your spiritual elevation is like on 1,000, because now you can sense it is. You sense it.
Yeah.
Now you're able to see things on a deeper level. You recognize that we're not humans with a spirit. We're spirit beings having a human experience here on this earth.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
if and I it's still lonely sometimes. I mean, I've shared things with
Well,
you,
not
but
no more because
I
you got
rather
me.
now,
You got me now.
but now I'm more, yeah, now I'm more comfortable. Before I was still like not sure, but I've been at this for so many years. But I'm more comfortable. But part of the loneliness too, because like you said earlier, when you go to church, you have a congregation, you have all this, so it's always people. But when you are on this journey, the road less taken, it's not that
Yeah.
many people. It is, but they're scattered. So they don't have congregations and things like that, so it does get
And
lonely.
yeah, and the Bible does say something about the road less traveled, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't
Yeah.
the Bible? There's a Bible verse about that, right? So
Yeah.
I'm gonna end here because, like I said, we got part 2, part 3. We're gonna get into. I'm gonna bring my sister on. We're gonna get into a little bit of childhood trauma from her being light skinned, me being dark skinned. We're gonna touch on all of that because she has some great things to share about what her views were
Hmm.
on that being light skinned and everything like that. But we're gonna pick back up with part 2 next week, and we're just gonna continue this discussion on Yeshua.
Hmm.
We're going to talk about why I say Yeshua now and why not Jesus. And we'll see you guys next week. All right. Peace,
All
light,
right.
love, and healing. Be inspired. I was like, I got to get back to my old saying be inspired and act on your inspiration. We'll see you next Sunday.
Yes.